of RD&S Farm LLC, and she was born into agriculture, what most people today would call homesteading. Her family sustained themselves from the land with food. It was instilled in Felicia that helping others is very important to your very existence as a producer, but also to the values associated with community. Over many years, she learned new technologies, methods, and practices for small producers that would be inexpensive or a DIY project to lessen the burden of cost, but increase her viability as a farm enterprise. These experiences have provided her with wonderful opportunities such as sustainable agriculture, project development, board member assignments, and her current position as Ag Specialist for National Center of Appropriate Technology. Felicia believes that everyone deserves the option of healthy food, and with the collective effort of small sustainable farmers across the country, she can become a reality. This can become a reality. And she is in Brandon, Mississippi.
Yes.
And her farm is RD&S Farm LLC, as I said, is a traditional 5th generation family farm located in Brandon, Mississippi. Our farm is a communal space to learn to connect with animals, land, and community. Our family's commitment has been to create a space for the community to come and nurture their whole self, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Our family and friends of the farm build relationship with the earth by learning techniques that work with nature, biomimicry, and biodynamics. Our farm will always uplift and honor our traditional culture and share its rich practices to all that want to learn. Our motto, food is medicine. Let's restore our health. So I introduce to you Felicia Bell.
So today, I just want to thank everyone that have played a role in creating the Black Sustainable Summit. And I just always enjoy being able to participate. Wish we could be together face to face, but I'm glad we're able to do it this year. So thank all that have played a role in assisting and putting this on. Thank you so much, Hope, for the introduction, and thank everyone for participating in today's session. So this title is Integrating Family into the Ag Supply Chain. And I usually define myself and give myself this label of traditionalist because I do not want to move away from what have been bestowed upon me, but really have bestowed upon my ancestors and have been handed down to me. So I am a traditionalist and not going to waver. So one of the things that I want to share is this is an agriculture supply chain. And I will be looking down at notes, so please forgive me for looking down, but this particular chart is showing us what happens when we as consumers get our food. You see, it's many, many sections, many, many parts to this, but the one thing that I want to share with people, as well as even our consumers, our backyard gardeners, is I want you to start thinking about how to control majority of this supply chain. That will change our lives. We know that if we put a lot in other people's hands, they can control us, as well as we have to jump through many, many hoops. And so please take a look at this. This is one of the things as farmers we do, that we try to control as much of these portions of this to make sure that we're getting and doing what we want for our community. And this, these particular slides can be found on Google anywhere for as agriculture supply chain. But this is basically what my family go through when we're providing products and or value added products and services for our community. So traditional agriculture, one of our elders there is no culture without agriculture. And that comes from Baba Oduno-Tari. And that is such a true statement. Everything we do is culture. We are kind of taught to separate things, but we are our own culture. Well, how we speak, how we eat, how we talk, everything. So we cannot separate. And this is just proving to others, agriculture is a part of our culture. So what is traditional agriculture? It's ancient food production and the original type of agriculture practiced for thousands of years. Traditional farming is the world's oldest farming method. It involves the intensive use of indigenous knowledge, traditional tools like axe and hoes and rakes and shovels, natural resources, organic fertilizer, animal manure and plant waste, and then our cultural beliefs of us as farmers. It is noteworthy that it's still used by about 50% of the world's population. Sacred forests, and that's the medicinal and presence of graves, and ancestral lands are valued more than short-term economic gain through increasing food production. So that was long, but you get the gist of we believe in what we do and we're not going to waver. We would put off economic gain to be able to continue that source of the soil and making sure it's done correctly and properly. So traditional methods and practices, we have to promote genetic diversity. We have to increase environmental awareness, and that's from young to old. Farmers following modern and scientific understanding of ecology and soil science, and then water, irrigation, which this picture shows the TASA method. That helps in areas that are drought ridden. If they know they always get drought, they create, and we know this innately because it's been handed down for generations upon generations of how to make sure our crops get water. Crop rotations, compost, dung fertilizer, and that's what you see to the right, the dung beetle, and then natural weed, biological pest control to protect the ecosystem. A small tip with the dung beetle, if it's any chemicals on your land, they will not be there. You will move them away. They come naturally and work with the dung, but if you start spraying chemicals, they leave your land. Now, so next is intergenerational mentoring, plus legacy farming, plus traditional ancient methods and practices. So an explanation of that, from traditionalists and baby boomers to generation X, Y, and Z. Each generation has come to maturity at a specific time in history, bringing with them not only fundamentally different ideas about the right way to work, but also vastly different skill sets and different professional goals and desires. And meaning we have to work together. We have no choice. Share the information. This is legacy farming at its best. This is where it all began. Left is my grandfather, R.D. Burnett, and to the right is my grandmother, Maddie Burnett. And this is where it all begins for is learning how to do what I do and what I've shared with my children and other youth in our community and around the country. So these are ways that food is stored and how we basically, as you heard in the bio, being homesteaders. So we took care of ourselves. I was born into this. And so this is basically all I know. And so we did everything pertaining to food, store food, hunt for food, all of the various things that occur when it comes to taking care of ourselves in the food aspect. And so to top left is food storage, but done in a basket weaving type way. In the center, you have the bank system. Some people remember and still do the banking system of our food because our earth is able to cool and warm how it's needed based upon how you build your banking system. And then to the top right is another storage methodology, but this is in Alaska. This way is needed for animals. You want to make sure you're keeping your animals out of your food because we're talking about food storage for years. So you don't want predator, animals getting into your food. And so some areas you got to build it on stilts. Lower left is canning, and most of us know how to do that. But the one thing I want to share is you can can everything. I hear a lot today that most people are only doing vegetables and fruit, not realizing you can can meat too. So you can do all of your food, can all of your food, and that is part of our traditions and many traditional cultures around the world. In the center, middle, bottom, is salting a hide. Those are things I have done. And really what it helps us is, one, bringing in another stream of income. As a young person, we were taught how to take care of ourselves by doing the various things on our land. And so when we hunted, and you'll see on the next slide, when we trapped, we took those hides of the animals, salted them. I was the one, it started out with my cousin, but then it moved, which was a male, and moved to me because he was cutting the hides. If you nicked the hides, we wouldn't get paid. And so my grandfather just took the knife from him and handed it to me one day, and that became my job. But I was able to do it efficiently without piercing the hides, because that changed our money. To the far right, what is our hunting, and we do it in various ways. You see this gentleman, it has the bow. We also use guns, but it's only utilized to sustain us. We don't do this trophy hunting and for a sport. We never hunted like that. We only hunted to provide food for our family. And I was always taught that's all you take. You only get enough from the earth, from the land, from the waters that you can eat in 1 year. Everything else is for others. And that's how I was taught. So this over hunting and all that stuff, we just don't do that. That's not part of how we're supposed to provide for ourselves. So the top left and middle right are called traps, and these are for the smaller animals. And I know my son said that, oh, you'll have a lot of people that said that's inhumane, but these things were done for thousands and thousands of years. This is not new. And so how else are you going to hunt? How else are you going to catch an animal? They're been here longer than us. They're smarter than us. So it is ways like the net on the bottom. We have to use various tools to be able to capture the animals, to be able to provide food for ourselves, but we do it in a manner that they don't suffer. That's the key. You have to have a heart for the animals. And halal, my grandfather did that. The way he slaughtered our animals, and way we were taught and have done, but we never knew the name until I got grown and realized that's what he was doing, because we knew that this animal is providing their life for us. And so that's very important to know and be a part of, but it's strictly providing food. We're not just doing it for sport. First and foremost, I want everyone to realize we have to talk about our needs. We know first and foremost, food, clothing, and shelter. So, but think about other things for us when you're farming and when you're trying to take care of yourself. Irrigation, water harvesting, our soil health. If your soil is not right, nothing else, it's not going to grow. You're not going to be able to raise animals. Grazing and zero grazing is a part of our culture, and definitely could talk to anyone further about that. Agroforestry, mixed, intercropping, and polyculture. So the goal of every family should be self-sufficient. And I know you will ask, how do I do that? The first thing, you have to assess your needs versus wants. The needs, regardless of where you live, you have needs, and those needs you jot down, and then you figure out, what can I create alternatively that can satisfy this need? And it can be done from the homeless person up to someone living in a mansion. They can provide for themselves. And the reason why I say it in that manner, we have survivalists and prepared people that want to live off the grid. But we have our brothers and sisters that are homeless. And so it's like, how can we help them figure out to live a quality of life when we got all these people trying to live outside and off the grid and all of these things. And so it's helping them understand the need. What do they need? And then helping them understand how to figure out an alternative manner. And so it can be done. It's just thought process, thinking it through. And then the last thing is you have to create a locked in foundation for all of your needs yourself. And then the key right here is utilizing your intentional community. So if you don't have a well, you may can go to your neighbor to get water, but that's working together. We tend to work in silos, and we can not continue to do that anymore. Silos meaning one entity doing it all on my own, thinking I know everything and I can manage this myself. That's not the African way. And so we have to learn to work with our intentional community.
Amen.
Thank you. These are natural resources. So we have our water, our oil, forests, rocks, our minerals, soils, and animals. And these are various things that are made of those. We as individuals have to say, what is on my land that can help me with these things? How do I have which natural, because we have them. So what do I have on my land, regardless if it's a backyard or you own acreage? What do I have that I can utilize myself to help my family be self-sufficient and then have a stream of income to help me make it in the world? But always remember, be good stewards of the land. Preserve these natural resources and biodiversity. Take only what you need. Support soil health. Support the natural behaviors of our environment. That's our microclimates, where our home is. That's considered a microclimate. You may be able to grow things there that your neighbor 2-3 doors down cannot grow. That's because each one of us have microclimates. Only use approved materials, alternative natural measures versus chemical. And then thinking about your fencing and your water. And do not use genetically modified amendments. And definitely we could get into that. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but just try your best not to use chemical-based agriculture, because it will affect you, because it gets in your water, it stays in your land, and we don't want that to hurt us while we're here, but we definitely don't want it to affect our children in the future. Traditional agriculture, as you have heard and seen, is practices, methods, and traditions of every culture around the world. But that does not mean it's not happening right here in the United States. It is many farmers in our country that continue to utilize their family traditions to provide food and medicine for themselves and community. All we need you to do is learn what we do, support what we do, and then implement. We are always here to help anyone that want to learn the way to feed themselves. Now, our modern farm model today. So the various techniques that we utilize on our farm, and not all of these, but I wanted to share with you the modern techniques and the words that you will hear today that derived from traditional methodologies and practices. So biomimicry, what Sister Hope said in my bio, biomimicry is indigenous cultures. You are mimicking the biological ways of life. If that's an animal, if that's the way the water rolls through your land, you don't change that. Sometimes we do have erosion and you work on that, but you try not to change the way the water have been running for years and sometimes hundreds of years. Permaculture, a lot of that, these buzzwords, these names have went around for many years, but the people chose to travel the world, learn these techniques from traditional cultures, and then they coined a name for it and would write a book or a program, and that's what we have today. Not all of them did it in malice. Some of them really wanted to get our oral history of various cultures around the world and just share it. And we understand that. But we also know some did it in malice just to make resources off these traditional cultures. Permaculture is indigenous cultures, and that's what most of us have done as farmers and grew up in it, where you had your herb garden close to the home, which most of us know called kitchen garden, and then you start going out into these regions. So you have animals that may be in the third zone, you have your forest that's in the fourth or fifth. That happens naturally in most indigenous cultures, the way we farm, but this particular person just coined it, and permaculture, but it did start from indigenous cultures. Biodynamics, which was also read in my bio, George Washington Carver, but Rudolph Steiner wrote the book. And so people don't realize that he conferred with George Washington Carver, and he was an intricate part of that. And biodynamics is just really utilizing our animals, the manure, what we spoke about for those traditional methodologies. CSA, a lot of people are utilizing that. Some of you all may be buying your groceries from a community supported agriculture project in your area. Booker T. Watley started that, and that is one of our geniuses at Tuskegee as well as George Washington Carver. And Booker T. Watley do have a book, and basically that's where the CSA model, people reading that book. But again, it's our history, and we didn't realize where these types of things come from. He didn't name it CSA, and that's the thing, it's read, and then the name is changed. Free range, you see this when you go in the grocery store. Free range, naturally grown, cage free, and that's just done to confuse consumers, to know most of these animals are caged up and they're not freely able to get their food naturally. And so free range is, but you'd be shocked to know the food system and how things are done. When they say free range, it may be 10 minutes outside and then they're put back in a cage. And legally, they're able to call it free range. So you'd be very surprised how the food system work in our country. Regenerative agriculture, management intensive grazing. These are names you will hear. They all come from indigenous cultures. We have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, working with our animals, and it's based upon a predator and prey model. If you have moved now into your farm and you're not, the predator and prey is not prevalent, you have to create that. And that's all regenerative agriculture is. Management intensive grazing is letting the animals help regenerate the soil by moving them with fences. You're moving them with fencing, but you're mimicking the predator as you move. So their hooves are help tillage of the soil, natural tillage. Market garden movement, that's big right now. Indigenous culture, we always have done that. We have moved away from it because we tend to grow now with more spacing. Market garden is that you grow it tight, very intensive, so the weeds won't grow. But we lost that and we're growing too far apart, and now we're out every day almost weeding. We have to get back to what we know. Our foreparents, they didn't do all that work. We're creating that for ourselves. Food forests. That's indigenous culture where everything just grows from layers, starting at your lower layer with your ground cover, your herbs, you go vertical and you just keep going up into your different nut and fruit trees. Tools and materials used today. You will hear this terminology, BCS, tillers, a gritter, silage tar, and that come from Africa. A lot of people didn't know about that, but African farmers use silage tar, and now all of a sudden is here in the country utilizing as well, but they just here, we don't utilize it as the African farmers do. Wood chips, paper, landscape fabric, plastic, drip irrigation, shearing tables and clippers, tilther, flame weeder. You know about water wells and utilizing rocks and stones, used oil for its biodiesel. Vital minerals, what we consider vitamins and call vitamins, are vital minerals. Soil, and that's like a straw, clay houses, our pizza oven. These are things that we can build in our backyard and with a family project. We have All right, we have composting and vermicomposting, rocket stoves. You can have that indoor and outdoor. We have anaerobic digestion, and one of the companies is home biogas. So you would find DIY ways of making an anaerobic digester on your land, but that's the blessing we have now. We have financial resources to buy some of these things and tools and practices. We can get help. We don't have to just try to figure it out ourselves. So home biogas. And these are some of the things we have here on the land to just, one, be able to share with others, but we utilize a lot of this because that's just part of what we're trying to do here. Fencing, broadfort, and a tilly. And the tilly and the gritter, you would be surprised. These are wooden tools that now have been transformed, and they are either added with a battery or they're added with a drill to make them work. And so the tools that your grandfather had in their barn, people are utilizing that now. And these are hundreds of dollars these tools cost now, which is just, that floors me, because they're just wooden tools. They're what our ancestors used. But again, they just have been transformed in a few ways. Natural fencing. So this is a citrus tree. It has these thorns on them year round, and they truly were natural fencing. We have them here, and the purpose of this is when our forefathers, like my grandfather and people in the community that, one, could not go to a co-op because they weren't allowed, and or if two, they could not afford it. And these natural fencings were utilized because animals will not go through these trees. So they planted these trees side by side, and they grow pretty big. And the cows and other animals will not go through because these thorns are on this tree year round, and they are very sharp. And so we utilize this citrus, this lemon, for various products that we create now. Sharing knowledge with family, community, youth, and young adults. So we are considered a family legacy farm, and all that means is just handed down from generation. My children are 5th generation, and that's documented. We know that it's much longer than that because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our ancestors. So the founding members of our particular farm, the RDNS farm, is myself, and my businesses are Trad Ag Wellness, along with the farm. I call our DNS farm Big Mama because that was the first, but other things, of course, have been produced from that entity. So Trad Ag Wellness is, I do herbal remedies, animal feed supplements, because we do not use chemicals and all of that type of things to work with our animals. We just don't do that. I've always healed them with herbs. And so one of my elders asked me to start making these particular products. And I'm grateful because that's where all these business come from. Just an elder knowing how we have lived here and how I've raised my children. And as they got older, she was like, okay, it's time. And so, and educational programs and consultation. Erata Cookery was started 2019 and is a vegan, vegetarian, limited service cafe. And it's now a concession trailer utilizing local farm products. And I started that for that middle son, Salud, because as you see with him wanting to cook. And so I created Erata Cookery, and we went into a brick and mortar, leasing building and all of that, just to give him the backdrop. He had to learn the back of the house and the front of the house. You can't just say, oh, I know how to cook, but you got to learn the business side. It's hard. You know, being a chef, running a business is hard work. And I threw him right in. That's what I was taught by my dad. If you want to learn something, you jump head first, foot first, however you want to do it, but you got to jump in. And that's what we did for 2019 in a brick and mortar. Now this year we were moving to a concession trailer in March. Of course, that got cut, but we had our first catering job in a few weeks ago. And so he's back in business with that. My oldest son, our Daniel, his business is called Farm Hand Carrier, LLC, and it provides repair and installation of farm infrastructure and also farm sitting. Because people don't realize a lot of times farmers can't leave. We have too much going on and we can't really go on vacations. And so farm sitting is a big deal within our industry. Salu is the young man I was speaking of. His businesses is Vegan Treats and Exotic Edgy. His first thing he authored, Bee Bug, Beneficial Insects for Farmers and Gardeners. And the reason for that is because, again, we do natural. So he wanted to teach farmers how to utilize beneficial insects versus using pesticides and using chemicals. So that was his first business adventure for as the book was concerned. Then we became a wholesaler for one of you all's friends in Atlanta, in the surrounding area of Lithonia, with Wonder Grubs, with Akisi, and we started selling her grub cookies. That was part of his showing. He wanted to let people know that that's beneficial insects, and insects as a whole is very beneficial to us. And so we have grown together and very grateful for that. The Vegan Treats is the vegan donuts, and some of you have had them. And I want to tell you, family, he have upped the ante since we've been in this lockdown. So the donuts are so much better now. He's been practicing and also doing the various glazes. And last but not least is Kayon. That's the youngest son. And he is 8 at this time, but he loves flowers. And so that's been our new endeavor this year. The older boys have been, and myself, been helping him get the land ready. We started it in one area, but we got to expand to do cut flowers. And then once all those cut flowers beautify land, then we're going to move into doing flower essences. So these are just, yes.
Oh, okay. Sister, I was saying we have 10 minutes left on our time allotted. So I was just
okay,
letting you know.
I'm almost
okay.
finished. These are just pictures.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yes, so just wanted to show you all of the, just telling you all this, and now we just go through the various logos for the various businesses. This myself, this is my oldest son, and this is the Farm Hand Carrier and the various things that he do. Next is Salu with the Vegan Treats, and then the Bee Bug with Exotic Edgy. Last son is Kayon, and these are some cut flowers that's in our particular state that we can utilize. Then when I always said my son from another mother is DJ Baker, that's here in Mississippi, that come about via Food Corps. These are his businesses. And like I said, I help so many young people move into businesses and help them realize that what they can do. Tiara is another one of my 4-Hers. And she's grown and done, but they did dairy goats. Her cousin, Dajur, Mr. again, a 4-Her. And again, their family did the dairy goats. They would get up early in the morning before school and do that. Faith Gaines, all of these young people are grown now and up in age, but they did it when they were in high school. And so they did dairy goats as well. Garden Works, Backyard Teas, other homeschoolers that was making teas, and they actually grew these in their home garden and packaged them. One of our brothers that I think Charles is on now, I met Charles through Food Corps, and you all know his history and the phenomenal work he's doing with Habasha. But yes, I have to claim him as one of my young men as well. So don't want to take that from other elders, but I love Charles and the work that he have done, and so proud of him. And then lastly, our Mississippi Fellows, again, under Food Corps. I was over that for our state for many years. And these are some of the young ladies that have worked under me. And they are all phenomenal in what they're doing in their lives right now. And so this is my contact information, and please reach out to us. We want to be here to help anyone that want to get into farming, but also want to just learn how to eat healthier. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. That's so informative. Um, I've learned so much. And do we have questions? There are a lot of comments about how impressed people are in the comments, and in the Gullah. We have Sister um, Thomas from the Gullah community, and saying that they do some of the same things, sustainable farming in the Gullah Geechee community. But do we have any more questions? I mean, do we have questions from our audience?
I ready?
Yes,
I'm very
Irati.
into it. I'm sorry. I missed some of the presentation. So, but I saw something that mentioned Mississippi. Is someone in Mississippi?
Yes, she's from Brandon, Mississippi. Felicia Bell, the speaker. I mean, the
Okay,
farmer.
Brandon. Okay, Brandon,
Brandon.
Mississippi.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
so I have, is she still in Mississippi?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good, because I do have family in Jackson, and my ancestors are from there. I have a lot of land, air property in Bentonia, Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna have to talk. I know you also know Malik
Yes, ma'am.
Yakini.
Yes.
So we have to talk, and I'll send you also my email, because we're trying to think about what else can we do with the property, 125 acres.
Yeah,
And we also have land in Yazoo. I think it's Yazoo City. You know, a little lot. And so, but I'm in Charlotte by way of New York. I'll talk to you.
Yes,
I can't wait to get the video on everything. I'm telling you, Raina, I gotta get all the videos. I gotta get them.
yes, ma'am.
Valuable
Thank you so
information.
much. I appreciate you, and yes, please let us talk, because yeah, I'm only 15 miles northeast of Jackson, so please let
I
us
saw
talk.
it. Yes.
Did you get
Great
to get
information.
her contact information at the end?
Yes. Yes, I did take a picture of it. But
okay. Yes, she's a master sustainable farmer, and we've been so impressed. And you missed where she talked about using traditional methods such as the banking system, where you cool. You definitely need to get the presentation where you cool the cool everything in the traditional. Now, yeah, I actually had a question. What material is that banking structure made out of? And then there was one on stilts. But was it made out of brick or dung, or what is did you call it a banking system?
Yeah, we used to say you're banking your potatoes, and other vegetables can be done, but no, it's just the soil, and they just basically, I call it hew it out. So you see, it's either a heel, and then they come and take a lot of the soil out and then put your front door on it. So it's only, you're utilizing the earth. That's it. For some systems, but now that on the one that was on stilts, that's in Alaska. So see that one, the snow gets tall as us, and so they can't have it on the ground. And then the animal, they would eat all the food. They would break in those houses to eat the food if they left it on the ground as well. And that's not just Alaska; that's other states as well.
Is that banking system made into the ground? I saw it was kind of on a hill. Is it made? And I've seen that in Native American culture also, which I'm sure we share.
Yes, it is made into the earth. So you're using natural materials, and like that was kind of elaborate because they had a wall and a door. A lot of time, most banking systems are not made. They just hew the soil out, and then you're able to put your potatoes, because that's what you're trying to keep them viable for a year. So you could just eat on them throughout the year. But of course, the cooling system of the earth, as well as the heating, is both. People don't realize we can do a lot just utilizing our earth You could put other vegetables. A lot of people also, especially ones that migrated north from the South, they use their basements as like a banking system. They would use the basement because the basement would stay cool.
Yes, yes.
Miss Felicia,
Yes,
I want to say wonderful presentation. Amazing.
thank you.
Worth everything that I paid to get in here. Trust me, and the replay. Two questions I had. One, the banking system, which you're just coming off of. I own some property in in Malawi, Africa. And I wanted to, it doesn't have a hill. Can I build that banking system? My
Yes.
second question, you dropped two books. One from a brother from Tuskegee who founded the CSA, but wasn't called the CSA, and something around Carver. Can you either drop those in the chat and I'll sit back and listen to your wisdom?
Yes. What I'll do is share with Raina. It's right behind me too, so I got to get it and put it in the chat. But it is so, and some people may know because but it's Booker T. Watley, and it's some about, I think, making a living with $25,000, something like that, or 25 acres. I'm sorry. And so, but it's X amount of thousands of dollars off a particular amount of acreage. And so, but yes, I'll get that. And your answer for is creating a banking system, yes. But like I said, we can utilize tools now. A lot of these things were hand dug. And so now, you know, if we have access to hiring somebody to come in with front end loader and you know, all this kind, we you know, and we do. Most of us have some financial ability to hire things out. And I just always want to ask people to do that. Do it where it becomes a permanent self-sufficiency for you. So pay now so you don't have to pay later. So invest in yourself. Where you can have these things on your land. But yes, ma'am, you could create that type of banking system on flat land, but it's utilizing equipment.
Hi, we have a question from Cheryl Johnson. She wanted to know about herbal supplements recommended for diarrhea. She has a 2-year-old horse that gets diarrhea whenever they change his hay. Mm-hmm. And she wanted to know if there are any herbal supplements that you know of, or any traditional things you would do to be helpful for that.
So first and foremost, the first thing I think of most of the time when our animals do have diarrhea, they either have eaten something that don't agree with them, that's one, or two, they're doing a self detox. Because a lot of animals will go get herbs if they have done something they weren't supposed to, or accidentally ate something. They will go eat herbs and it'll create diarrhea. So it depends on what's in the hay, because it may be something in the hay, like a herb or something that's creating the diarrhea. So that's another thing that I always teach on, being very careful about bringing things off farm into our purview. Everybody don't do well with, they don't think about the animals, they're thinking about the dollar. And sometimes, you know, when they're baling hay, it's no telling what you get. So be very, very careful with that. And if they spray their grass and then they end up baling it a few months later, that takes effect on our animals. So please be careful with that. But far as I don't stop diarrhea. That's another thing. Diarrhea for animals and us, our body does that to get out bad things. So if we have eaten something, if the animals have eaten a poisonous plant, so you don't want to stop that, because that would make them more ill. And so if they have diarrhea, now it's just your management to figure out if it's one, like, is it the hay that you bought, or is it two, self-detoxing? So that's where I come from. I never try to stop diarrhea because yeah, that the body is doing that naturally.
Do we have any more questions or comments from anyone? Well, I wanted to ask about you had the 4-H system. I was going to ask you before I saw that about the Mississippi Extension system. I mean, our county extension systems around the country. I'm so glad that we've continued those traditions and maybe the county fairs. Can you tell us how integrated the county extension system and the 4-H system is with Black farmers? And I also wanted to ask in general about how Black farmers come together, or how much of a coalition you all have, or if there have been, if many farmers are separated or you come as a collective.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to keep land and all that type of thing. And how far are you from the Delta area? Are you on the Delta?
2.5, sometimes depending on where, but about 2 to 3 hours, depending on what.
Oh, okay. So you're not on the Delta, but yeah, if you could talk about Black farmers as a whole in Mississippi,
yes,
and the county extension system, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, so I'll start with county extension. Is not very diversified. That was one reason why I started our 4-H club with the sustainable agriculture. That particular practice and topic was not, and to be honest, we're still not in our 4-H system for as it being a topic that actually teach the children. They have ag things like vegetable and they break it all up, but not sustainable. And the reason being is our extension offices around the country are basically mainly for big agriculture, which in turn, those are chemical-based agriculture entities. And so you're not going to have a lot of the sustainable way and natural ways of doing things and chemical-free ways of doing things. And that's understandable. Everybody got to do them. I don't have quarrels with that. But again, you do have some farm families that go into the extension and you want to utilize them, but sometimes you get there and they can't help because they have no clue on natural methodologies. Second, the 4-H system within the extension arena is not diversified, not here. And so we want more of that. We want young people to get into that. One of the things I think deter a lot of our families is expensive. And what I mean by that is the different topics that your children have to do. You have to just set aside that resources to do it. And not that it's exuberant, I'm not saying that, but just set aside money to be able to buy the things they need to do their projects. and I think that's what keep a lot of our families out, is just having that extra income to do that. If you're going to show animals and so forth like we did, it gets expensive because you got to take care of the animal that whole season and stuff. But I love the 4-H program because you really, it's like, to me, unit studies, those various topics you can learn. Your child can learn and teach themselves, because that's what 4-H is about, the children learning how to do these things. And it's not just agriculture. You can learn how to drive equipment. What Brother TJ talked about with the farming equipment, they have those type of projects. You have even fashion design. It's so many projects under 4-H, too many to name. And so it's wherever your child wants to be in as a career. 4-H allows you to tap into it first to see if they really want to do that. So I implore people to try 4-H out. Don't get discouraged if you're the only one of African descent there. You push through because you're there for your baby or babies. So keep pushing through and don't let anyone push you out of that arena, because it's for everyone. It's a national program.
Mama has her Queen Mother has her hand up, but I do want you to talk about the collective farmers as a whole. But let me let her ask her question.
Yes.
Queen
Oh,
Mama?
do you, it, did she,
Are you talking about me, sister?
yeah, yes,
Oh,
yes,
well, give thanks, Queen Mama.
ye- yes.
We're all okay. So, sister, okay, um, the thing of the legacy, which is a huge legacy of farming, of teaching the methodology to the next generation of how to take care of one of those pillars that that speaks to sovereignty. So what you're doing is beautiful, and thank you again for it. A lot of family members are turned off or eventually turned off to farming because they may romanticize it and land, their own land that was passed on to them, but realize just how much hard work people. So I'll get to my, that was the notification to get to my question, but I set it up because the question has to do with your strategy of how to, it's the strategy of how to attract and how to hold family members to stick to the land.
Yeah.
So there's this type of nurturing that you've done with your own family, but for other people who own land or seeing family members who want to just sell it or let it just go to waste, what are your strategies for holding on, creating the interest and maintaining the hold on the land and really working the land out of respect, but working the land for benefit, for value?
Yeah, Steve.
Thank you, Mama. Very good question. One of the ways that I always express to everyone that now are farming, now that are gardening, your young people, they have to see benefit. One, either, and it's sad, and we're in a time it has to be monetarily. They have to see us making money off the work we're doing. They don't like to see that if our grandparents, and they grew up with grandparents and they've been working their whole life, but they haven't seen a dollar exchange, they can't understand that unless you explain it to them that grandmother was homesteading. We have to talk to our children to let them know the difference. It is a difference in homesteading and commercial farming, and you can do both. But you have to say the words so the children can understand. Our grandparents a lot of time only wanted to homestead. They didn't want to be in the arena of selling food to anybody. They shared their food, but they weren't doing that. But us today are creating that as another stream of income. And so for the young people and young adults that's wanting to get into agriculture or standoffish from agriculture, start small first. I always said vegetable production, herb production is things that you can start off first that don't hurt your bank and your pocketbook, because you could buy seed packets, and I call it doing experiments. One, you got to do research. What grows in your area? Do not just go to Walmart, Lowe's, and place and buy seeds. A lot of those things are brought into the Southeast from the Midwest. They won't grow here. And stuff. They're cold climate type thing. And so our heat just burned the stuff up. So be very careful of the big box stores. But be very intentional on what you can grow in your area. But I understand a lot of people move away from it because, oh, that's the, what we had to do, the reason why we were brought here, and it's hard work and so forth. But the other thing I share with families is stop using the children just as laborers. We tend to do that as farmers, and then they get a bitter taste in their mouth about farming. You have to engage them on what they want. You can use drones now for farming. One of our esteemed academia people here in Mississippi, well, she's working for Southern University now, but from Mississippi, she is going to assist farmers with doing drones that can see cysts inside of animals before they turn into a cancer, just utilizing the drone because of the infrared. Also being able to look at our crops to see the burden that's being placed on these vegetable crops that we can't see with the naked eye. So those types of things that intrigue young people. And that's what we have to share, that farming is not just on the ground. We got to show them the science, all of the various careers you can do in farming, and that will bring them back to the land. Definitely will bring them back to the land. Thanks, Mama. You on mute.
I'm sorry. Hi. Okay, well, could you say a word about, I know we need to end, a word about farmers as a whole, Black farmers.
Yes, so yes, we have cooperatives. Brother Bobby mentioned it on yesterday, Brother Bobby Wilson of the Federation of Southern Cooperatives is our oldest cooperative entity that brought us together as Black farmers, and they still exist today. So we do have cooperatives around the country that pull our farmers together to work together and to purchase together. You're able to buy.
Mic is off.
I got it. All right. So it is cooperatives that are created around the country that work together, also, helping themselves, each other on their farms, but also they buy in bulk together. So yes, ma'am, we do have those. But again, the methodology sometimes keeps us separate. You have farmers that may utilize chemicals, and then you have farmers that do it naturally. So you have a difference, and that's what I would like to see change within our people, our farmers. We got to stop butting heads with that. Don't exclude the farmers that do it traditionally just because. Be open to everyone's way of farming, because we shouldn't be fighting among ourselves based upon the way we want to farm. We all need help, and we should be working together. And that's the only thing that I see right now. And I've seen it for numerous of years. And that's the only thing I think that that's one barrier we got to break down.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.